So Highland Noise Podcast, I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
I'm Taylor.
Iris with some questions to say about her new album, Survival in Motion. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Oh, it's been really awesome. It was a really fun record for me to make. I got to make it with my best friends and everything. So it's always really reassuring when people seem to like it too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the album is fucking awesome.
It is
Thank you.
incredible. Yes.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
Of course. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Actually, yeah. So, obviously the last few years of my life have been just so completely different. Like so much has changed from, quarantine up until this point. And obviously within all of that, there's a lot of highs, but there's also a lot of lows. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can't really stop to like be able to fully just digest everything that's happening because I have to tour and I have to work and I have to do all these things. And so, actually, on New Year's Eve, my friend Emma and I, who I wrote the whole record with, sometimes I like to go to like Barnes and Noble or like Books a Million or something and just go and I'll look at the poetry section and just try to get ideas from titles or just poems that I'm reading. And it was so weird. There was this it's actually called I think it's called She Fits Into These Words. It's literally out in my living room right now. I'm probably getting that wrong, that title, but it was so weird. I pulled it out. It was the first one that I pulled out, and the front cover of it was literally like a girl. It looked like she was falling into a void. And right before I had started writing that record, I put out a song called Basement, and that's literally the cover art. And it was the same like color scheme. It was like a yellow and orange color scheme. I was like, this is so weird. I literally turned it to Emma and I was like, are you seeing what I'm seeing right now? And I opened it up to a poem that essentially said like we are all walking representation of survival in motion. And I was like, wow, that really feels like how my life has been. It's like no matter what we go through, no matter how hard something is, like we always just keep going. You know what I mean? There might be a little hiccup, but you just got to keep going. And so I really resonated with that. And I was like, I'm going to keep this in my back pocket for when we start writing again. And the first day that we got in, it was the following week, like the very, first couple weeks of January. And we ended up writing Survival in Motion. That was the first song. And then it just kind of spiraled into what it is now. So
Gotcha. Hell yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful.
I
Fate.
Right, yeah.
I know you mentioned like there's been this constant state of like feeling like you can't slow down and not really being able to necessarily reflect on everything that's happened. Did you get a chance during either the creation, the process of the record, or now that it's out, to reflect on the chaos of basically the last 5 years at this point, or are you still kind of feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think, obviously like there are points in my life that are a little overwhelming where it's like, oh my gosh, there's like, because every single year I feel like things have gotten a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and we're playing bigger shows and we're playing bigger festivals and we're on bigger stages. And so there is a little bit of that like stress of like, oh man, how am I going to be able to handle this? And, so it's just like processing everything and having the time to do so really wasn't a thing up until like probably last 6 months has been the longest amount of time that I've had off in probably the last like 3 years.
Damn.
And so with writing new music and things like that, like I've definitely taken some time to fully like process everything and process events that had happened and relationships that, might not be in my life anymore and things like that. So, yeah, I've had like the last 5 months to really sit with that, 5, 6 months. So it's interesting. But when we were writing that record, it was like, we weren't intending on writing a record by any means. We just kind of were going into the studio, and just writing. We just hadn't done it in a minute. So we started writing, and we wrote Survival in Motion, and then we wrote Greener, and then we wrote, all of the other songs to follow. And by the end of the week, we all looked at it. Dan Swank, who he produced the whole record. And I wrote it with him and my best friend Emma, but he actually had it on his computer screen at the very end of the week, and was like, had all of the songs in a line, and was like, what if this is the record? And just joking around. And we all looked at each other and were like, wait a second.
I think we just wrote an album.
Yeah, like we just wrote an album. And at that point, I've been independent my entire career. And so obviously, like with records and things like that, like finances and things come into play. But my team, when I brought up the idea, were like, hell yeah, let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? So it was really cool how it all happened. But it was very weird though, because like as I was writing Grass is Greener, I was actively going through, then I didn't know it, but afterwards, going into first headline tour, found out that it was like the worst friendship breakup of all time. Like, and I won't get into detail about it. It was like this person was just like very encrypted into my life and my job and things like that. And so like I was having to sing The Grass is Greener on the other side when I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I've really had like the last, few months to really like sit with that and talk about it and write about it. And yeah.
Gotcha.
Music is definitely going to have a different vibe. I will say that much.
All right. Gotcha. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for this album?
Yeah, for Survival Emotion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, that's what it was. It was, I got together with my best friends and we were just kind of like, let's see what happens. I think sometimes when you take some time off of writing, and at that time, I had done a lot of touring and things like that. So I was like, do I even know how to write anymore? I have no idea. So, we kind of get in, and before then, we had put out the Certified Depressant EP, and, we were kind of like on a roll then, but it's like, you never know after that much time. It's like, do we still have the same chemistry as far as writing goes? And of course, like what I said before, we just got in the studio and we had no idea that we were writing a record. It just so happened to be that way. And I think that was what was so cool about it, is that like there was no pressure, there was no like timeline, there was nothing. Like we just did it and it felt so seamless and natural, and we had so much fun because it was me and my two best friends in the world, and also being able to continue to work with Dan after all of these years, and then just like listen to everything back and be like, wow, like we've grown so much as writers, and myself too as an artist. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really cool to see things like that come to life. So it was really like natural and beautiful and so much fun because I got to experience it with them. And I remember when we were writing Birds Still Sing, Dan turned off the lights and we were listening to the demo back and we were just like bawling, crying, like, what is happening?
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah,
so special.
it was like a really special moment to be able to like even be that vulnerable with two people, so
Absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
It sounds like to me that even though amidst all of the chaos, you were still kind of able to have that first album experience in a way, because there was no like, we're going in to write a record.
Yeah, like it was so exciting. I was like, just pitching the idea, and when everybody was on board, I was like, really? This is exciting. But I think, there are things that I wish I would have done differently. Like when we were putting out the record was like right in the midst of us being on tour with Dashboard Confessional. And so that was a little difficult, but also it was really cool because I remember Martin from Boys Like Girls, actually the night it came out, like he listened to it and texted me and he was like, congratulations, it's so good. And like that to me, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like fact that my people that I've looked up to for so many years in this genre and this industry, have noticed that, we're doing what we're doing. And so it's really cool.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. So you've got a deluxe of the record as well, with some new songs and a handful of features on existing songs as well. I'm curious at what point in the process this all kind of came about.
So Burning House was a song that I wrote actually when I was like right before we were getting ready to go on the Somerset Grayscale tour, I actually wrote it with Colin and Andrew and Dallas from, yeah, I wrote it with them. And that was my first time meeting them. So it was really cool. And I'd been a fan of their band too for a while. And so it was really neat. And they're also all from Pennsylvania. And so I was like, wow, it's like a bit, sorry, my cat is just making, this is
Holy
over.
shit.
Yeah, I have not one, but two cats now. So they might both make their appearance.
That's
soon.
great.
Very
We
exciting.
welcome
I
it.
can't wait. Yeah.
Just like, yeah, I want to know what's going on. But yeah, I wrote it with the Grayscale Boys, which was really, really cool. But we wrote it like, sorry, you're going to hear his little, do you hear that?
He has a couple things to add, you know?
Okay. All right.
It's like, Taylor, you're telling the story wrong.
You have to do it right now? Right now? Really? I was literally just charging that bird. Sorry to get off. I was just charging that bird and I was like, I'll charge it for you. And then I threw it down and I was like, wow, I really didn't think that through. I should have left it dead for up until like after this. But yeah, no, I wrote it with the boys from Grayscale, which was really cool. And we wrote it like back in 2022. Was it 2022? Yeah, I think. Hang on one second.
Throwing you off.
My ADHD right now is like, there it goes. Hang on.
No sweat.
Where were we?
Grayscale.
Grayscale Boys.
Yes, Grayscale Boys. I wrote it with them. And it was like 3 years ago, which is crazy to think. And after we wrote it, I just remember being like, oh, this is really cool. But never really had a plan for it. And at the time, it was only a verse and a chorus. And then a few months after we had written it, I had kind of come up with the idea for the second verse, and Dan and I finished it. And it just sat. I actually sent it to my sister, and she was very mad when it came out because she was like, I don't think I like that other people have this song because this has been like my little like secret thing that I share. Yeah. So she was like, I like take it back. Like, can you
She's
take
like,
it
I'm kind
back?
of offended.
Unrelease it.
Yeah. She's like, I don't think I like this. But no, that was a song that like for years, like has always kind of been in the back of my mind. And I just didn't know when the right time for it would be. And then when we were given, the opportunity of like, hey, like, would a deluxe album be any interest to you? I was all on board because, with writing a record, it's so weird because it's like you write it, you put it out, and then it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I, love that record so much, and I was so proud of that record. And so I just felt like the ending of it wasn't quite there. Like I felt like it was just, it needed to have a little bit something extra. And so thinking about songs and context and kind of where I was in my life and my friendship kind of falling apart and things like that, like like moving parallel to like all of these things that had been happening in my career and stuff, like I don't know, I felt like it was just time. And I was like, I really am excited to play that one live too. And then Hell of a Show I actually wrote while I was in between. I just got off the Dashboard tour, and that's kind of when I was like, hey, I've got all of these things that I need to get off of my chest. And I wrote that with my friend Andrew, who I actually wrote I Think I'm in Love with. And it was just like a just train of thought just kind of came out. And when it comes to like transitioning into this new phase of music, I was like, these definitely fit both of those worlds. It kind of is a good segue into what's coming. And I don't know, I think it just fit. And then obviously like the features with Lolo and Charlotte and Mitchell Timpani, I was like, no brainer. I felt like I just wanted to add that on the project as well because I love them so much, all as artists and people, but like the features, I just loved them. And so really wanted to incorporate that too. So I don't know, I'm really excited of how it all came out, and I'm glad that people, have been resonating with the songs, and it's just cool to have people listen to the full record again too,
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Exactly. Damn straight.
Yeah.
So what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
I'm trying to think of all the songs. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think Greener was the one. It took a couple days. I honestly, like, to be transparent, after the first day we wrote it, I was like, absolutely no. Like, don't like this song.
Yeah.
Don't like it. And then Dan had built it out a little bit and he was like, hear me out. We're going to listen to this again. And the next day coming back, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, I can see the vision now. And so, we kind of reworked some things. So Greener was probably the one that took the longest to write.
Mhm.
High Horse also too, because we wrote High Horse like right before we did like a little run in November before we started writing the record in January, like the following January.
Mhm.
And started writing High, and that wasn't quite finished yet. And that one was kind of just one that we like threw in there, like, hey, maybe this would fit, and it ended up fitting. So it ended up being a single. So we finished that one and kind of reworked a few lyrics and things like that. So that one was probably like the longest one. But Greener, like, as far as like context goes, that one was like the most difficult to write because I literally hated it at first.
Man. So
And
what
now,
was it? Oh,
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, and now it's my favorite, I think.
oh,
So
there you
yeah.
go. I love how that works out. So what was it about Greener that made it so difficult that you hated it almost the entire time?
I think because, I have, it's like a love-hate relationship with like happy songs. I don't want to say I'm dark, like I prefer like a little bit of a darker tone, darker vibe. And
Yeah.
Emma is like my counterpart. She's like the yin to my yang, like the complete opposite of me, but we are so similar.
Mhm.
And she is like, you don't have anything like aside from, you know, I mean, there's a lot of songs that I have that are like they feel kind of happy, but they have very dark undertones. And this one, it didn't feel like that at all, I don't think. And so I was just kind of, I think, battling with that. I'm like, does it sound like me? Does it sound like something that I would say? And so I think I was battling with that internally. And she was like, just listen to me. Okay. Like, people are gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Like, just give it a second and like really sit with it. And I think like obviously taking the time and like really, you know, reworking some things and reworking some, lyrics and production. I really just like, I love it so much. And it has become like I said, like my favorite one to play live. And just the reaction that people had from it too. I was like, I knew that the song was cool and that I loved it, but it's always really exciting when you have people that like gravitate towards it. And that was one that people really latched onto too. So I was like, maybe I should start writing songs that are a little bit more happy. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, that was, it was an interesting experience.
For
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Happy it turned out the way it did, though.
Yeah.
I know, me too.
So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, so Survival in Motion was the very first song that we wrote. And that one, like, after I had, seen the title and in the little poetry book,
Mhm.
I was like, this feels like an album opener because I feel like it kind of says everything. And it was just like, I don't know, it feels like a slap in the face almost. Like it's just a really like um powerful and energetic way to start a record. And I love starting records like that because it kind of sets the tone for everything else. And I really felt like just the title and the meaning of all of the songs as a collective really felt like that to me personally.
Mhm.
So I was like, knew going into it, I was like, this is going to be the title and this is going to be the opener, like after we started like writing it. And then the very last song I think we did write was Birds Still Sing. We finished that one, and that one just felt like a really like beautiful moment to just end the record. I feel like it ended on a very positive note, and it just felt like a really positive, uplifting way to end the record. And yeah, I don't know. I really love that song. So it was weird that like the sorry, my cat is getting into my things over here. But it just felt like a really good way to start and end. You know, you start it on a very like punchy, exciting, heavy song, and then you end it on a more sweet, happy, positive. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
really like that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Um, at the time, you know, initially I was like feeling a little like I don't know. I was feeling really, really good. I feel like at that time, like, I mean, in my personal relationship too, like my partner is amazing and has always been so supportive. And like, you know, our relationship was really great. And I think that's where it kind of was like, you know, I felt like things were greener. I felt like things were happier. But obviously, like with the state of the world and like there's so many things that play into our own personal lives. And so I really wanted to um just be fully transparent with a lot of the things. And I think at that time, you know, there's a lot of love songs on there. There's Nervous System, there's Homebody, and that's really like the place that I was in. And then like right after I wrote Greener was kind of when I found out that everything,
Just
like
burning
some
down.
things in my life were like not so great. And
Mhm.
so that was really, really hard. And like I personally like obviously friendships come and go, but like I don't think I've ever been rocked that hard by like
Yeah.
a friendship breakup, you know?
Mhm.
Like and so I was like, damn, like this really sucks. And you know, by then we had already kind of decided like, hey, like, oh yeah, this is maybe the album. And so yeah, moving forward, we just decided, you know, it just felt right. And I loved the songs. And um, yeah, so it was like weird. It was like I was on a very high, you know, just getting off of touring and all of the things and getting right to write new music. And it's exciting. And then boom, like,
Yeah.
that happened. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, it was weird. It felt like a roller coaster. I'll be completely honest.
Yeah.
Understandable.
How are you feeling now? Are you feeling better now?
I'm feeling better now. Yeah. I think, you know, having the last 5 months to really just like have time to myself. I am one of those people too, where it's like, and I'm sure like, I don't know how you guys like handle situations, but I'm definitely one where it's like, as long as I keep moving, I'm fine. If I stop and I think about anything is when like shit kind of hits the fan. And so I was like really like I was very anxious about having this much time off because I had nothing to really like aside from like writing music, which is always like an incredible thing I get to do and very, very helpful when it comes to like my mental health and my journey. I was like really like anxious about, you know, having to sit with it. But I've been able to sit with it and I've talked to a lot of people and you know, I obviously like things happen and you move on. And unfortunately for other people that are involved in the situation, I am the nicest person, but it's like I will write a song about you.
Exactly. Just don't read too close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I will never say a name, but I might write a song or two. Hey,
Yeah.
who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it
Um,
was very like liberating to be able to do that. But
Good.
yeah, no, it definitely was like tough there for a few months. I think I was like I maybe was crashing out a little bit.
Yeah, just a little
Gotcha.
bit as a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as a little treat, you
little
know.
treat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this question should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
Oh my gosh. Roller coaster. Oh my goodness. I remember you guys asked this the last time too, and I was like, so, like what? I don't even what are words? I don't know.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. Wait, what was the first word I just said?
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster, energetic,
Mhm.
uplifting, I think.
Ooh,
Hell yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
I mean, it just like happened so seamlessly. Like, I know that's like a terrible excuse, like a terrible answer, but like the writing process of it was really seamless. I think the most challenging thing was releasing a record in the middle of touring. Because touring and like the touring world and the writing side of my life is like so completely different. So for me, it's like, you're on tour and you're excited and you're getting to see and meet people every night. And, I was touring with two bands that I've looked up to for years. And so it's like my head is like, I'm like a goldfish where it's like, I can only keep track of one thing at a time, as you saw with the little chirping bird that was. So I have a really like, I just get excited about things and sometimes don't like, it's really hard for me to like stay excited about something, especially like a project that we had finished. And obviously, like, what's the next best thing? And so I think that like not really necessarily giving myself the proper like time to really sit with it and be like, okay, we're releasing an album and promotion and all of the things too. But um I'm just happy it came out, and I'm happy that it got another life with the deluxe. And um I'm just grateful that I was even able to have the experience at all. So I feel like it was a feat no matter what. But I think that is the one thing that I wish I would have been more mindful of, like, hey, you could have waited a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm like very much like, we got to get it done now and do it now.
Gotta
And
get it out.
the patience is like really hard for me. Yeah.
You're just excited all the time.
Excited all the time. And I think, I get myself in trouble sometimes because, like, especially with like TikTok and things like that, when I have something that I'm excited about, I want to share it. And it's like, okay, sometimes you need to hold off a little bit, give yourself some time, plan things. I'm not very good at that. I am like, it has to happen now. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it has to happen now.
I get it. And for this last question, boom, you're on a desert island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and what are you bringing?
Oh my gosh. So one movie. Oh my gosh. I've been really loving the movie The Pursuit of Happiness right now. I don't know. It's been really like it's really been really motivating to watch. So I'll probably bring that one with me. Might regret that decision, but I think it would be like, I'm on a deserted island. Okay, I need some positivity.
Exactly.
Album. I think I would bring August and Everything After by Counting Crows. I would bring that album. And then oh gosh, I'm like, do I have to bring a person? Can I bring my cats?
Sure.
We've let people bring pets before, so if you do want to bring your cat,
I would definitely want to bring my cats. I'm like, do I have to leave them behind? No, but I would probably bring my partner because he is like awesome, and we can make fun in whatever we do, and he's pretty savvy too. So I'm like, if I needed somebody to build me a fort or something, I'd probably bring him. So
all right.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Oh man, just new music, lots of touring, getting ready to go on tour for the summer school tour, which is very exciting because I get to do it with all of my friends. And yeah, just lots of new music, lots of shows coming up. So
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Snow. It's been Taylor Acorn, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.